Okay, well, hi, and welcome to another edition of the Purple Space Spotlight On series. I'm Brendan Roach. I have the privilege of being Purple Space's Director of Strategy and Networkology, and we have not one, but two amazing guests today in the shape of Alia Cooper and Ian Stewart from HSBC. I'm really excited about this conversation. So I've had the good fortune to work with HSBC for a number of years now. I've witnessed firsthand the breadth and depth of the bank's commitment to improving disability confidence. So, for example, HSBC is an active member of the Purple Space community and a strategic founding partner of the Purple Light Up movement. And, I know outside of that, they make many important contributions to global conversations about disability in business as well. So really looking forward to today's conversation. I'm joined as ever by my colleague, Lauren Pemberton-Nelson. Hi, Lauren.
Hi. I'm really looking forward to today's interview and hearing insights from our wonderful guests. As you say, HSBC have been doing a lot for disability inclusion, and we've been blown away with how much they have contributed worldwide to Purple Light Up, with branches engaging in USA, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong. It's been really breathtaking. Alia and Ian, it'd be great to start off with you telling us a bit about yourselves, your day jobs, and how you became involved with the disability element of life at the bank.
Alia, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm currently one of 3 global co-chairs for the Ability Network. I've been in that position since the middle of last year, and prior to that I was one of the co-chairs for our UK Ability Network. My day job is in financial crime, so I'm part of our compliance function, but supporting the Diversity and Inclusion Network through Ability is a really important part of my life at HSBC, and a way for me to give something back to the community at large in the bank.
Thanks, Alia. My name is Ian Stewart. I'm the joint executive sponsor globally for Ability. Relatively new in that role. Took it on about, I think, 18 months ago now. Worked with Alia a lot on Ability and all that entails, including mental health. And as a day job, I'm the CEO for HSBC UK, which keeps me quite busy. But as Alia said, it's a great opportunity to give something extra back to the business and help others, certainly through very difficult times, as 2020 has underlined.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask you about the global nature of the Ability Network. So most of our audience will recognize HSBC as a huge global brand, and I know you have chapters of the Ability Network all over the world. I mean, Lauren talked about some of the activity that we had noticed around Purple Light Up and the breadth. So maybe, Ali, if I could start by asking you just for a bit about the history of the Ability Network, your involvement in the UK, and then the rationale and some of the work that you have done in terms of developing a more global structure or approach to it.
Yeah, of course. So Ability is one of our sort of core employee networks. So they cross the breadth of the D&I agenda, and Ability has been up and running for several years now. The reason to go global, I think, was it kind of was already happening. So we had lots of ERGs setting up around the globe, and it made sense really to bring that together under one umbrella to kind of share best practice, to learn and support one another across the globe. We've got really active chapters in the Americas, so from Canada in the north down to Argentina. We've got a big presence in the UK, but also in some of our smaller locations like Bermuda and the Channel Islands. And then out in Asia, where we have a huge number of resources supporting our day-to-day operations in what we call our global service centres. Got really active community there as well as in our businesses in places like Hong Kong and Australia. So as you can see from that short list, we really do cover many sites across HSBC, but we're always looking to do more, and by bringing together a global co-chairs, that gives us the chance to kind of bring a bit of consistency, share learning, and to work with our senior management around the globe to kind of promote the ability and disability confidence agenda.
Thanks, Alia. And just listening to you list off some of those markets, some of those countries. What do you notice in terms of sort of maturity and life cycle of those country level chapters? Are there some that stand out as being more long-standing, is there a number of them that are newer?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got everything in terms of the, so the UK and the US, for example, are long established and got a very strong sort of committee structure and range of events. And then in other sites, for example, we're just getting something off the ground with our colleagues in Egypt, which I'm really excited about. And that's really just at the very beginning of the process. So we're working with them to identify a local sponsor, for example, and everything in between.
Yeah. That's really exciting to hear those developments in places like Egypt. And you mentioned there the importance of having a local sponsor. So Ian, if I can bring you in, you've taken up the role of global sponsor for the Ability Network. So just, yeah, your thoughts on that, and particularly in terms of your hopes around, the reach and the impact of the Ability Network now that you've developed this more global structure.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ali has hit the nail on the head, really. It's a chance to spread best practice. We have got a mature situation in the UK, which is where I pick up most of my information, but we bring a lot of information in from different parts of the world. But one of the reasons it's really important is because some of our countries culturally do not want to accept that there's maybe an disability issue. Be it visible or invisible. So, it's not, it won't be news to a lot of your audience that maybe in India you've got to work a little bit harder because the culture's slightly different. If you're in China and you are maybe the result of a one-child family, which was the rule for many years, that puts extra pressure on individuals to perform and make sure they don't let their parents down. So we're learning all the time about what is going on in different markets, bringing it back to the centre to try and work out if there's then things we can adapt both for local markets and internationally as well. But really it's about creating a network, and it is just a network. It's volunteers, remember, it's not something that people are in full time. It's all volunteers across the ERG network, and they just do a really, really good job of developing the cultures in countries. So what do we try and do above all else? We try and make the environment safe. And that's easier said than done, but if you can make it a safe environment, then people will come and talk about some of the difficulties in their market, or about getting extra support, about suddenly becoming disabled. I mean, that's the other thing as well. Maybe in your 20s, you're full of health and vigor, but as you get older, you maybe lose your sight, you're not as capable. So giving people the support to extend careers and really make life as comfortable as we can in the workplace is a really big objective.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you remind us of, in some ways, when we talk about the human experience of disability, there are lots of universal truths, but those cultural and local differences are very real as well, and the importance of making sure that things resonate on the ground. Thank you.
We know from our experience of our community at Purple Space that a relationship between an ERG and a sponsor, a senior sponsor, can often be a prerequisite for success. So Alia, how do you and Ian work together? What do you find is the best way to work with a sponsor?
So I think we're very lucky with Ian because he understands and is interested in the subject in its own right. And I think the main thing he gives us is by being approachable. So I've never felt that we couldn't go to him with something. And he always makes time for us, despite having probably one of the busiest day jobs in the bank. So I think, we respect his time. We make sure that when we go to him, we've got something meaningful to say. We're not afraid to ask him for something. If we need his support, we need his help. But we kind of, we need to manage our expectations of him properly so that we're not taking advantage of him or trying to, get him to do stuff that would not fit in with the broader needs of the bank. But I have to say, he's always been there for us in the ways that matter. So, he will put himself forward to speak at events. He will, he'll turn up and listen when we've got something to say to him. He's been very supportive of our plans. He's helped us with our strategy. So, what we get is a voice at the very top of the house. We get the guidance of someone who works on extremely complex business strategies and plans every day, and we get that insight into our business plans. And someone who's passionate about the subject. And I think those would be the three big things for me that really make his sponsorship work for us.
That's really lovely to hear.
Alia, you're way too generous as well.
And Ian, what about you? What do you see your main function as an executive sponsor?
Well, I have to say, Alia is way too generous. I don't think I do that much, but I do like to try and support. So I've never turned any meeting down because there's always been a really good topic to discuss. Nobody calls me up and says, look, let's have a catch up and just a chat. There's always a purpose or a real need. And what I can do is I can take the issue to the top of the house. And it's interesting, I should just explain, I'm the co-joint sponsor of Ability. So there's two of us. So Ewan Stevenson, our group chief financial officer, who happens to be deaf on one side, is also a co-chair, and I get more involved in the UK side because I'm based here. But we're always trying to escalate something, to say, look, this is the right thing to do for our people, it's the right thing to do for business, so we need to push it quite hard. And I maybe push it a little bit harder than maybe others, but I feel that's my responsibility on behalf of the team. I am interested in the topic, though. I mean, that is true. I've got 4 children and 3 carry some form of disability. One post-meningitis, which is tragic, but 2 others genetic who have got really bad eyesight. So they're great kids, do not get me wrong, and they would not want any sympathy at all. But one of them, for example, couldn't work for HSBC. Now, that's wrong. I mean, of course you should be able to work for HSBC, but just the technology that we use wouldn't allow my child to enlarge screens to read things. That's an easy fix in 2021. You know, we shouldn't be having these barriers to employing talent into our bank. So, you know, by really focusing in on some of these things, we can make a difference. And likewise, here's me sitting with my glasses on today. I mean, I use enlarging on my iPad all the time because it's a tool we get used to. And now, do I think of myself disabled? No, I don't think of myself disabled because I've got tools to overcome it. But there's other things we've got to give our people the tools to overcome, whether it's how they sit at their desk, what height the desk is at, all these things. If you're trying to pull a wheelchair into your desk, you need adaptations. Our job is to make that easy, and people should not have a stigma about asking for the help. Because one of the problems we've got in business today is people don't want to ask for help because we, the employer, they believe, will think, oh, they're not capable of doing the job. And we're now starting to ask people at interview, do you need any help? And some people think it's a sort of catch question. No, it's not. It's a genuine question. We want to employ you, but is there something you maybe need? And if you go into some of our more modern offices today, all around the floor, you'll see probably 50% of the desks are on height adjusters. So some people just don't like sitting down at their desk nowadays. And that's not because they're disabled, they just get uncomfortable, bad back. We will make adjustments so people are comfortable in the environment. And they're sometimes quite small and sometimes they're quite major. But it's all doable. And I see my job as just greasing the wheels of that to make it doable for our colleagues.
You know, Ian, just listening to you share that little bit of, I guess, your personal interest and experience in the topic as well. So one of the things that we get asked a lot around from particularly newer networks that maybe haven't identified that senior level sponsor as well, just in terms of your thoughts and Alia as well about how do you find the right sponsor? How do you engage with the right senior person that's going to help you make a difference? And is there a clue in your answer there in terms of that personal experience?
Well, Brendan, to be honest with you, I was reluctant to really do this to start with because I knew there was an emotional connection with my own family situation, and I thought I don't want to get really involved in that, and it's a long story, and I won't bore you with it today. But then I thought, Jonas, I've lived with this for 20 years in my family, so I know some of the issues. You know, some of them are really simple. Some are quite complex, like frustration. You know, individuals get frustrated because they know they can do something, but for whatever reason, maybe the equipment doesn't allow them to do it. And how do you deal with that sort of frustration? So once I got my own head around it, I thought, right, okay, I can hopefully help. And people get much less intimidated if I tell them a little bit of my story, because then they go, well, he understands that. You know, he does get that, you know, so maybe I can share a little bit more with Ian. And I've found that, but I've usually got to break down the barrier first, which then allows people to go, oh, well, I can have that conversation with you. And it's quite funny because, you know, we're talking about a really difficult topic. And this is something HSBC, I think, have got quite good at recently. We will take on difficult topics to help colleagues through. And we were talking about miscarriage, completely off the ability agenda. We were just talking about miscarriage. And I said, just in this meeting, I said, God, I remember when my wife miscarried, it was Christmas Eve, and I could tell the story right the way through. The minute I mentioned I had been through a miscarriage, which it was before we had any children, so it would be child number one, and how devastated I was, then all of a sudden the conversation sprang to life and everyone's happy to share their story. So sometimes I think you've got to give a bit to get quite a lot back. So I'm not the most public person in the world, but I've learned that if you give a bit, you get an awful lot back.
Yeah, makes sense. And you mentioned as well your co-sponsor Ewan as well, I know, is also shares information about his own personal experience of disability as well. I imagine, Alia, you must see an impact in that kind of level of sharing, particularly at that level of seniority as well.
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah. It really does. It really does make an impact. I think I was struck last year. I mean, and actually, it cuts across our senior leadership. We've got some great role models. So last year we had a session with parents of children with special educational needs, and one of our leadership team, a lady called Natalie Blythe, she was taking part in the event, and during the session her daughter came in and sort of joined in, which was lovely. And it was so nice to see Natalie talking about her experience as a parent, but also her, you know, her daughter came in and sort of semi-joined in the session for a minute, which was really lovely. And I think that touched a lot of people, and it's that kind of ability to show some vulnerability, which Ian described so well, that I think makes a real difference. It's authentic, it's real, and it shows that what's possible.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you a question. In some ways, it might be linked actually about the kind of the times that we're living through now, and a little bit about the future. And I guess in some ways, you know, the kind of vulnerability and this. We've seen more of our leaders in different, you know, in their own homes, wearing jeans and t-shirts. So in that way, I wonder if we've all become a little bit more kind of familiar with our leaders, and they've become a bit more real to us. But in terms of now and going forwards, we continue to live through the most extraordinary times. So just interested in your thoughts about the future and the role that the Ability Network has to play in the next sort of 12 months. Alia, is there anything in particular that is on your mind or that you're looking forward to?
Well, I think you've hit on a key point there, actually, and it's one I would like to invite Ian to talk about as well, which is around the subject of mental health, which I think we've seen is absolutely critical through this difficult time that we're all living through. You know, whether it's people who are isolated and living alone, whether it's people who are juggling family responsibilities and homeschooling. And so I think HSBC has recently announced it's taking part in a really exciting bit of work around mental health, which again Ian has been very prominent in supporting. So I don't know even if you wanted to say a few words about that, because that is probably one of the most exciting things ahead.
Yeah, so if I may, I'm going to go off a slight tangent, and by the time this goes out, people will be clearer on the UK, because the Prime Minister makes an announcement on the 22nd of February. But we were just talking this morning about the excitement of coming out of lockdown, because I don't know about others, but I found this lockdown really difficult. I don't know if it's because it's winter or whatever. But I think as we come out of that, people will be out. They'll catch up for lost time, dinners, lunches, theatre, cinema, you name it. If it's all open, they'll do that. But I've got one nagging worry on this, which is that we don't know the full impact of this last 12 months on people. And I had a guess today that maybe 20 or 30% of the population will not just bounce through this. Okay, and then as the world sort of moves on, we've all been vaccinated, and hopefully, there's a resurgence. How many people, my words, not anybody else's, will get left behind from that exuberance? And so I do think that's quite a big question that we'll maybe all have to face into in the months ahead. And what is the collateral damage? If you've, just one example, if you've lost a loved one over the last few months, and yet you could not go to the funeral service, you've maybe not seen the gravestone, all these things, maybe people have just not been allowed to grieve. Will they come out as we come out as well? And what are we going to do as an organisation to help people through that process? So I think there's a lot to be excited about, sure, but we have to be aware, or as I say, of some of the unintended consequences that we may have to pick up as well. And I hope it's a small issue, but I've got a nagging feeling it might be a bigger issue than we think, and we just need to be prepared for that and patient. And what I've been saying on my vlogs that I've been doing to my team is we've got to be patient and supportive, because everyone will find their own path, and everyone will have a different path. It won't all be Ian Stewart's path or Alia Cooper's path. They'll all have their own path, and we just need to make sure that we've got patience in our arm around people as they find that path and work their way through this. And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely. And it's clear listening to you that the Ability Network will have a role in supporting those messages as well.
Well, especially around the mental health side, because that is such a big topic, and we're at the foothills of really understanding all the aspects of that, especially in the young, and people have really struggled, feeling they've had a year stolen out of their life. So we just need to really think about that in the next, I would say, 12 months.
Yeah, thank you for that. I completely agree. Ian, at the Purple Light Up global 24-hour broadcast, one of the things that you said was that ERGs will be crucial in terms of supporting an inclusive return to work. Are there any plans for how the Ability Network will be supporting employees worldwide with that, and sort of plans around making sure that is a big part of your plans for 2021?
Well, ERGs are one of our great success stories. I'd love to be here saying I invented it. It's all my idea. I had nothing to do with it. Okay, I inherited it, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, we've got the Muslim network. We did an incredible talk last week from the Jewish community on the Holocaust. So we're just past the Holocaust memorial date, and in January. So this was us catching up, and I mean, just moves you to tears when you bring a survivor in to talk about it. So all the ERGs have got a role to play. They're equally as passionate as we are in Ability. We're here to talk about Ability today, but all the other ones are incredibly passionate. I mean, LGBT plus has got a really big community, thriving community in HSBC, and they just do incredible things. And what some of them do actually, which I find really helpful, is education. They take the time to educate people like me on how does it feel to be a Muslim in the UK today? There's a great question. And they really take the time and just walk you through some of the trials and tribulations of that in a way that's really educational. So, I'm always super grateful for the ERGs. Remember, they raise a lot of money for charities. They do it all off the side of their desk, all in their own private time, and really put everything into it to make HSBC a better place to work. And they do. I mean, they absolutely do make it a better place to work. And if you think about attendees, we've got in the bit of the bank that I run in the UK, something like 25,000 people. I mean, 16,000 are members of ERGs. So it really does attract everyone in, because it's such a good environment and a learning environment as well. So yeah, I think they'll continue. They'll go from strength to strength. And all we try and do as leaders is don't get in the way, because sometimes as a senior, you can get in the way. So we're very conscious. We're there to support and help, but we don't get in the way, or we try not to. Ali, I might tell you I do get in the way, but we try not to get in the way.
No, I mean, I think Ian's hit on a really important point there, which is around the community of ERGs that we have in HSBC, and we do try to work with each other. So last year, for example, we ran an event with our colleagues in the Embrace Network, which is our ERG for people from minority ethnic represented groups. And that was really powerful, actually, because we were able to bring two different sets of lived experiences together and to share that with the wider community. So I think, you know, thinking about the year ahead, we'll continue to work with the other ERGs because we can reach more people that way. And also we've got some great programs within HSBC that we as the ERG can play a part in. So we've got our Global Disability Confident Programme, and we've got a global wellbeing agenda as well. And one of the best things about the ERG is being able to have a seat at those tables and to the extent possible provide a voice of the employee into those programs, so that we do the best that we can to influence the deliverables from those to meet the needs of our broader community. So I think those two programs in particular are a key way for us to influence the return to work, but also by working with the broader D&I community to look out for each other. You know, most people who are interested in D&I are not just interested in one part of it, like Ian. They're interested in the whole spectrum of experiences that people have. And when you consider all of the differences, that we're actually not a minority, we're a majority, because we're all different, or, you know, many of us are different. And by working together, it becomes less of an issue that you have an individual difference, because people start to focus more on the inclusion part than the diverse part, which I think is where the power lies.
Thank you so much for that. So this has been a really interesting conversation, and we have our last question. There'll be many ERG leaders, champions, allies who will watch this, who also work in global companies. Could I ask each of you for a tip for an organisation that wants to develop a more global approach to their employee networks or resource groups, but don't know how? Alia, if I could start with you.
I think the important thing is to kind of reach out to allies that are already in those places, and to share your successes. So one of the things, for example, that we did when I was the co-chair of the UK network was we didn't turn anyone away if they wanted to join but weren't based in the UK. And I think by welcoming everyone into what was at the time one of the more established networks, we were able to share our experiences, and you know, the smaller sites could sort of ride a little bit on what was being done on a bigger site where there's a bit more resource. So I think, you know, if you've got something good going in one location, then use that as your kind of your starter for success in other locations. A bit like, what's that bread, sourdough starter, you know, give a little bit of your sourdough starter to other locations and invite everyone in to learn and share best practice. And then I think you start to build a bit of momentum. So that would be my tip.
Yeah, just really build on that, because I think networking is just so important. But if you want to do this, don't let anybody put you off. You're never going to get fired for helping your colleagues. For, you know, showing your caring side is a great thing. The one tip I would give on top of that is try and politely pressurize your leaders into getting engaged in whatever it is you're trying to set up. And I say that only because, you know, they'll have a voice and they can take that voice elsewhere, and they can make sure that the voice gets heard at the senior table. I mean, that's one of the keys of bringing a senior in and try and go to the top of the house. And any business today, large multinational business today, will be very interested in doing this, because it's good in so many levels. But your people, you can't run a business without people. Your people will really appreciate the fact that you're trying. You won't always get it right, but at least you've got a care agenda that shows you're trying to help in whatever way you can. So don't let anybody put you off. I would strongly advise you just to get on with it, lay out a plan, get some helpers around you, make it a bit of fun. If you can, a bit of fun always helps, but just get one sort of senior person involved as well, just to take the message up and out is a good thing.
Right, thank you. Look, Ian and Alia, we could continue this conversation. It feels like we have spanned the entire globe in terms of some of our topics here, but really just to thank the both of you for your insights today, but also for your leadership that you demonstrate on this. I know has an impact for your HSB colleagues, but you're contributing to a wider conversation here, which impacts on broader societal change. So thank you both for your time today and for the work that you do. And for everybody who's tuning into this conversation today, thanks for tuning in. And do make sure that you join us next time when we'll be joined by another amazing member of the Purple Space community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.